Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Jangoon and today we're going to be doing a review of Hoi 4. So in this review, we'll be going over a few concepts of it. We'll be seeing the positive and negative features of it, and let's see, you know. So these are a few positive features of it. It has a short learning curve. There's not much to do in the beginning. You can find it a bit confusing at first. You might just declare war on some nation out of nowhere and all of a sudden get pushed back to Berlin and fail miserably, which is basically the first thing that happened when I played. But you don't really. But this isn't the type of game that you need many tutorials to learn. You can basically learn just by playing it. Sometimes you could. Sometimes even watching Let's Plays help. So that's the thing. Now it has a fleshed out military system. Hoi 4's military system is quite different from many other games. Like it has a different thing to it. It has battle plans rather than manually moving them. It's not that you don't, you still need to micromanage, but you have battle plans to do most of the work. Front lines, offensive lines, defensive lines, garrisons, all that stuff. So we'll get more in depth into that later on. So peacetime decisions. You have a political spectrum. You have four main ideologies: fascism, communism, democracy, and neutrality. Neutrality basically works as a monarchy. Then it's not that fleshed out as compared to other games like Victoria 2, but it'll make do. So the research trees, that's a good part of it. It's quite important as it adds more depth to the game. It's not like everyone's gonna go with the same gun. Like the Soviets may have gotten better technology when it comes to guns. Britain's gonna have the best navy. Germany's gonna have the best air force, and France they'll have the best surrendering flags. Then national focuses. Yeah. So you have many different types of research trees there. You have doctrines and each nation gets assigned one by default, but you can switch paths. Germany has the mobile one or something. It has Blitzkrieg and stuff. Then there are many other ones like Grand Battle Plan or something. So that's one thing. Then national focuses. We have this is a generic tree I'm showing here. Right? This is a generic tree I'm showing here. This tree is basically what you have for every nation except for the major powers, like Italy, so Russia, Germany, France, UK, USA, etc., etc. But this is just the one for the other nations. Sometimes, if you have the DLCs together for victory, and you have Waking the Tiger together for victory, and Death or Dishonor, which can give you more focus trees for the Balkans. You get an expanded focus tree for Japan, which already has one. And Together for Victory gives you, like, Waking the Tiger has the Japanese focus tree, it expands the German focus tree, gives them a new choice to go into the Civil War. And the Together for Victory one adds focus trees for all the colonies to get independence. They could go down the path of democracy, communism, fascism, anything. So as long as it breaks free from the crown. Now here are a few negative features / points. It requires a little more post-war content. What I mean by that is, you could basically fight World War II. If you defeat Germany, you could split them into East and West Germany, but there's nothing much afterwards. It's mostly just waiting around for someone to do something, and the whole world snaps. But it needs something more, maybe a diplomatic trade embargoes and stuff. which I think you do have in the new DLC Man the Guns, but embargoes aren't just embargoes won't do the trick. It could have something more like an alternate thing. Maybe what could we do? Split Italy, split an axis with victory make more than just Belarusian puppets and Ukrainian and all the other Soviet republics and stuff. While if or maybe something more like splitting Germany 4 ways, splitting Italy 4 ways if you even get splitting Italy. Maybe a 3-way split, different things. Or maybe create new nations in the Balkans once the independent state of Croatia is dissolved. Maybe rather than just giving it back to Yugoslavia or breaking it down into Bosnia in Croatia, we could try something more like splitting Bosnia and Herzegovina along the geographical border. Then we have alternate paths we need, as I said, but that's just for the post-war ones. We need more alternate paths, as in other, the minor nations, they can change their ideology and stuff, but there's nothing much you can change about the war other than whether you win it or not by being better at the game. You could win the war, but I mean something more like demanding territory that wasn't demanded. Maybe France demanding the annexation of Belgium if they go down the focus tree where they go fascist. Or if it's the communist thing, maybe they could try and do something like the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, something similar to that, but in terms of France, like more like integrating Belgium than like puppeting them rather than telling them to join or die or something like that. That's the kind of thing that we might need. Then you also have stuff like maybe the United Netherlands reforming. It does happen in a few scenarios, but very rarely. Or maybe like all those, like you don't want to keep boring you with all these alternate scenarios. So now, depth to nuclear research. What you can have is you go nuclear research, you go nuclear reactors, and then directly nuclear bombs. That's not the problem. It needs a little more that goes further. Maybe researching a bit on hydrogen bombs, and if your nation has had a head start in the nuclear development, maybe you could get hydrogen bombs first. Now, a few other opinions. You could have rivals in peacetime, similar to like it's sort of based on the post-war thing. It could happen if the World War got pushed further away, if maybe they didn't guarantee Poland or something, or historical focuses went on, and then the German Civil War broke out, and then they weren't there to start World War II. So then there you could have rivals instead, the USA and the Soviet Union. Maybe Germany and France since Germany would still be a different ideology, just one that's closer to the French spectrum side of the spectrum. Like they're mostly like I think libertarian. Yeah, I guess so. Like around libertarian and conservative at that time. And Germany would be somewhere more like somewhere around centrist, maybe a bit closer to totalitarian. So that way they'd still be on opposing sides of the spectrum. Different side, like one would be more economically and socially free, and one would be like completely closed off, or at least almost closed off in a way. So, so then slightly more globalized economy. By that, I mean something like Victoria 2. Victoria 2 is quite similar to High 4 in many ways, but it's more complicated in different ways, more rebellions. One thing I forgot to mention here is that it also needs to have rebellions. You can't just annex the world and then expect to just have like peacetime forever. You like while you're at war, you can occupy that territory and they'll reward you a little bit. Nothing after that. There'll be partitions, but nothing after that. No independence leagues, no one trying to get a new ideology. Only if you trigger a civil war, civil war triggers, or if another player stages a coup. Then, so now about the globalized economy, Victoria 2 has a global economy, while Hoi 4 just has a trade economy, like you trade with the US and then trade with Japan, but no connection between the two. If it was more of a globalized one, you could trade with the US or trade with Japan, and then you'll trade with Japan, and it'll be like a small kind of circle of it. That would be more interesting. And you could have more ideologies. I don't mean something like this. This would be quite, that wouldn't be necessary. Just something more like, more than just neutrality, fascism, and like communism and democracy. Those are mostly like the, where would you say it? The more extreme sides of the spectrum. Fascism and communism, then you have two mid-ground things, but nothing in between. The democratic parties are gonna hate the communists, but no one in between to be like, I'm just a socialist right in between. Nothing like that. So that's one problem. No mid-grounds. Just go from like democratic to like all of a sudden you're a fascist. I'm not saying it's not possible for that, but maybe a more paced thing. Maybe a higher chance of being able to go to another ideology if you're already socialist, it'll be easier to go communist. Because if you're fascist, it should be much harder to go communist. Just saying. Then more actions for different ideologies. So if this adds things like monarchies and all, or even the neutrality ideology, you could have something like royal marriages and stuff. So diplomatic actions. So that's all. Nothing that doesn't require much explanation. So the military system explained. A group of units can be assembled into an army with a general. An army can be assigned battle plans, mainly front lines, defensive lines, fallback lines, and garrisons. So basically, you select a few troops and you put them into an army by clicking on the army button thingy. Then you have battle plans. You set battle plans like the Polish border. If you have two borders, like if your nation split into two, and then you have two borders with the nation that's really big, then like Poland splits Germany, so they'll have two borders. So you can select which one to use. You can decide how much of the border you want to cover. If you only want to cover like Danzig, but not the rest of Poland, you want another army to do that, and you just want to fortify Danzig more, then you can do that. Then you have offensive lines. What you can do with those is whatever you select, you can push into that nation, and you can push them back. It's not always guaranteed to work. They'll obviously have their own offensive lines, but if you have an upper hand, you'll be able to do it quite well. You have fallback lines. So one thing I forgot to mention: offensive lines they require front lines, but fallback lines can be done with either if you have it or you don't. Either way, it still works. You can put a garrison, like you can have a fallback line on somewhere, and then they'll push into your nation, and then they'll stretch their forces out. And because of that, you can easily your armies might be much larger, but at that point you stretch your forces. Something like that could happen. So once they stretch their forces, it'll be much easier for you to push them back. Then you have garrisons. Those so you can use them to protect yourself against naval invasions, paratroopers. Sometimes even land invasions. You could have a garrison on the border, like a front line and then a garrison. Just in case you get pushed back, you'll have extra troops just waiting there to protect that area. And an army can be placed into an army group. Basically, you select the armies since they all have a maximum number of troops. Since this is a garrison order, it doesn't show it, but it's usually 24. Field marshals can be like just generals who have been promoted. The three default field marshals that every nation is given can usually, I think sometimes they can hold 72 troops. Most of the time they hold 24, but the thing is, the difference is they can also have army groups. So you can have a group of like generals and stuff and then put them into an army group under a field marshal. So overall, I'd say that Hard to Find 4 would be good if you're gonna get into grand strategy from like a newcomer. But if if you already played strategy games and you can easily adapt to new games now, then I wouldn't recommend it since this would feel too basic and simple as compared to the other ones where. But if you are new to strategy, grand strategy, and other stuff, then you should definitely pick this one. So that's it for today, guys. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.